Hello, everyone. Welcome to Prentice's Rule, an avenue for discussion, knowledge, and fellowship with focus on your eyes, the face that surrounds them, and the humanity behind the spectacles. While I am an eye care professional on the path to better understanding, I am not a medical professional. And as such, please seek the advice of a medical professional if needed. The direction in which we're going with Prentice's Rule is not about educating the optician. There are plenty of avenues for that. Laramie K. Optician Works, as well as many others. This is about informing the layperson, about being your own advocate, knowing what questions to ask. Hopefully to give you some of the history behind the lenses that we wear, the materials in use for them, the materials in use for our spectacle frames and their design, and their hardware, among many other things, including coatings, which today we're going to kind of be discussing anti-reflective coatings. Now I have some on these lenses, and as you can see, if I move about, it picks up bits of the lighting that's in use, but if I tip past, then it goes away. Essentially, there's still some modicum there. You can tell when people are wearing lenses, and you can tell when they have frames on and there are no lenses in them. Show you some examples. So this in particular is a product by the company Shamir. I have absolutely no affiliation with any of these organizations. I started out by wearing glasses while I was working in theater, fell in love with it all, and because I had access to funds at the time, tried to explore the different varieties of, at the time, progressive lenses and what types of anti-reflectives were available. Now, most anti-reflectives, as part of their properties, there's a scratch resistance. Nothing is scratch proof. Our lenses are not made of diamond. You can't see through that. Although, and we'll get into this, there was a point in time where emerald or colored glass was used to help shield the eyes in direct sunlight, much like our sunglasses of today. So an antireflective is a multi-layered coating that's placed on the spectacle lens, ideally to allow that lens to gather the most available light so that the visual system can utilize it. In low light situations, I find it incredibly beneficial. Without a good coating, what I experience at night, and I do try to avoid driving at night if possible, but I can't help it on many occasions. But what I experience is a flaring out of oncoming headlights. And honestly, part of how I discovered that I needed to wear spectacles was I was driving at night to the airport, and I could not make out the overhead interstate signs successfully until I was at a certain distance and an angle to the signage. Turned out that I needed glasses, and I should have been wearing them for some length of time. But as far as an antireflective, the marketing would indicate that it makes those glares and flares of light and halos completely go away, and that is marketing. Nothing makes it go completely away. But it does help. It does make it less. Some of the lesser expensive antireflectives will help that to go away about half. And then there are some slightly more expensive antireflectives that help it go away a little bit more than that. There are also antireflectives that are out there to help mitigate blue light exposure. I personally like some iterations and do not like at all others. But the ones that I'm referring to have a slight yellowish tint to them. And you can tell when folks are wearing a blue light blocker with regard to the antireflective because there's a kind of a purplish sheen that you can see. Like if I tip past, you can see kind of a greenish point, but there's not a dispersion of that reflection across the whole. And so I have some examples here of uncoated lenses. Now this is actually a lens cut into the shape of a fish. These yellow marks are for progressive lens, and so this is an actual spectacle with prescription. When I do it just right, I warp and get blurry. But without an antireflective, the cast, where are you? The cast across the lens is a bit more. Okay, you can see it kind of going through and out. What happens when you do not have an antireflective is there's a loss of about 4 to 6 or 7% of the available light. It puts a little bit more strain on the visual system. I tend to prefer it when I'm working on computer. I certainly prefer it when I'm doing this kind of thing. Here is another example. This one is what we call plano. Plano has no prescription in it whatsoever, but still uncoated, and you can see even more reflection within that. So again, with an antireflective, once I tip past, you're better able to see my eyes. Here is an uncut lens. Definitely has some antireflective on it. Now this lens has been going around in my backpack, and so it is kind of scratched up, and so some aspects of its properties are not as effective. You can see where there's some scratching, and that will actually cause more of the reflection to be, depending upon where the eye looks through, to be present, to be uncomfortable. It will not impede vision, but it can certainly make it so that it's less comfortable to look through. So, iteration the first. I have also a different company's take on kind of a greenish hue antireflective. This one is called Crizal Rock. It is a newer iteration. As you can see, as I move through, the points are about the same as what we had in the Shamir. And here's the thing. Many of these are very, 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 very similar. But they each have, depending upon the manufacturer, slightly different properties. So that was what's called Crizal Rock. It's the middle tier. This is what's called Sapphire. And so, when I wear the Sapphire, as you can see, it turns kind of a bluish, but it's also slightly less reflection. Nothing makes it go completely away, but it does help to reduce so that when you're on video, there is less chance for glare. Depending upon the angle of lighting, you can have it go almost completely away. Again, the only way in which to have lenses go completely scratch-free, well, not scratch-free, reflection-free, is to remove them from the lens, from the frame. And so, without any, there's no reflection, but I also can't see quite as well, certainly not far. Again, there are folks that will do this for fashion purposes. If, say, someone is known for wearing a certain pair of spectacles, it becomes their trademark. After LASIK, after cataract surgery, when one then no longer needs or is wearing contact lenses to help reduce the amount of glare that you experience when in front of a camera, they'll pop the lenses out so that we're still able to keep the framing, but don't have to deal with what's going on with our lenses. This is not anti-reflective. So this is a transitions type lens. It starts out dark with a slight bit of polarization, but you can see there's a slight mirroring on it. And anti-reflective in this case is more important on the back side. On the back side, what that's helping do is rather than any reflection coming from behind and reflecting, bouncing back into the eyes, it helps it to essentially pass through the lens, makes it less egregious to the vision, makes it calmer to the vision. I had a patient the other day that had ordered just scratch resistance, regretted the fact almost immediately that they had not gotten any anti-glare, anti-reflective. The only true anti-glare, and marketing will tell you that an anti-reflective is anti-glare, but the only true anti-glare is a polarized lens, and we'll get into that more a little bit later. Another iteration of the Crizal product is what is called Alizé. Kind of greenish, yeah. Not as green as the Rock. The Rock, Crizal Rock, is its almost entire purpose is to be stronger. It's very similar to the Alizé, but the Alizé has actually less reflection than does that of the rock, Crizal rock. This is a Hoya product. Hoya is another manufacturer. So as far as coloration, fairly similar to the Crizal Sapphire. There are many. I mean, there are hundreds of progressive lenses. There are a number of manufacturers of our lenses. Each of those manufacturers either directly makes an anti-reflective or has bought up the company that makes the anti-reflective and therefore owns it and its processes. It's necessary, I think, when you're wearing spectacles. It's super convenient in front of the lights and such. As you can see, once we go past the angle, and depending upon how the lights themselves are angled, they become less noticeable. Present, but less noticeable. So an anti-reflective, it depends on where you get it. It can be as inexpensive as, an additional $50, $75, $50 to $75 on top of your lens cost. In some locations, and depending upon which iteration you get, it can add an additional, $125 up to just under $200, depending. For that kind of cost, one would hope that you get some kind of scratch warranty. Where I had previously been involved, a 1 or 2 year scratch warranty. Where I am now, we actually get a 5-year scratch warranty. Again, I am not here on behalf of, I receive no recompense from any of these manufacturers, but I do feel it necessary to kind of discuss this thing, anti-reflectives, the necessity thereof, and the benefits that you'll find from them. So, that is this week's episode. Thank you very much for sticking around. It is absolutely my pleasure. We'll get more into the materials. Each of these has different aspects. The material that I'm wearing here now has within it blue light blocking capability and capacity. The coating that I was, type of coating that I was expressing regarding blue light blocking, that has a slight purplish cast and a slight yellow tint to it. Again, I don't care for, but there are other products that allow that blue light blockage to occur. And of note, Transitions, the type of, it's a film that's part of the lens, and you can get it as either single vision, or you can get it in bifocal, lined bifocal or trifocal. And you can get it as a progressive. Transitions where they go from clear to dark, that actually affords about an 18-19% blue light blockage indoors. It increases significantly once you get outside. And really, outside is where most of our blue light is occurring. But with, the last 10, 20 years, most of us are in front of a phone, in front of a tablet, in front of a screen, in front of multiple screens, watching way too much television. Anyway, thank you very much. Episode 5 will be coming. I am Larry, and I appreciate your sticking around. Be well.